where if you throw a mine here, it passes away many guards. And even sometimes it gets that door open. I remember watching speedruns from antiquity in which he pulled that off. Good old Sterling Neblet, still around the community these days, and there was a post on the internet the other day asking if this fella is the one who's been shot most in the rear end over the course of, you know, gaming history. And it's probably true. And then over here, I'm sure some of you have seen this in my videos before, there's these beakers up here.
Coming out of C-shot, you're just trying to take a little bit too much.
I think there's the time they were. Now it's a great, the K word. In hindsight, with like 7 years of experience, 8 years of experience on YouTube and so on, oh my god. I know that's the case now, but like for a while I did not know that was the case, you know? Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna do a very old technique. What's up, Straw Hat? Oh, that's amazing, Gabe. That was a fun time many moons ago. Okay, that like really perished everybody. So anyway, so then not saying the K word has like, it's like become its own meme, I think. And I know a lot of people wonder like, oh, what's this? Like giving into the censors and stuff. But it's like, okay, it sort of has become like a self-fulfilling meme situation.
Actors, we can make you believe we know what we're doing, when in fact, we do not. Whoops. I have no idea what these buttons do. I've never driven a stick in my life. Not my hardest roll yet! Small business owner, because I have no idea what I'm doing. But GoDaddy Arrow does, using AI to build a logo, website, and social content. For Walton Goggins goggle glasses. Because if your goggles ain't Goggins, they don't belong on your noggins. With GoDaddy Arrow, it's like you know what you're doing.
This is Brie. She went from idea to paying customers in 48 hours. No coding, no teams, no all-nighters fueled by energy drinks. While most people spend months planning and preparing, Brie had a different approach. She had something most entrepreneurs don't, an AI employee that could execute her vision. Day 1, her AI wrote her website copy and found potential leads. Day 2, cold outreach emails employee that could execute her vision. Day 1.
Silly glitch. Oh yeah, oh I know the pause when you're passing away glitch. Ron Dizon. I hope I do not pass away in tonight's live stream. Live broadcast. So Doke is only here 2 out of 7 times. And I hope he's not here. But I figured I'd come in here to check. Yeah, it looks like if I shoot at those tanks, I'm toast. And a very interesting speedrun idea would be come
Guys, UMGC is waiving their application fee through September 3rd. Tuition is low cost, classes 100% online, and over 135 degrees and certificates.
Hello, you absolute legends. The Egyptian Temple, or simply Egypt as we speedrunners call it, is the second bonus level and the final level of GoldenEye 007, and in my opinion is one of the coolest levels in the entire game. It has what is probably the game's only real puzzle. It contains one of the most iconic weapons in the Bond franchise, the Golden Gun, and if you can beat it in less than 6 minutes, you unlock what I think is the most fun cheat of all, the All Guns cheat. There are only 2 objectives: recover the Golden Gun and to defeat Baron Samedi. These 2 objectives seem to work hand in hand, because the Golden Gun is the strongest weapon in the game, and Baron Samedi is the strongest boss in the game, who has an insane amount of health. Trying to kill him without the use of the Golden Gun is not recommended, especially on the harder difficulties. In terms of speedrunning, Egypt is easily one of my favorite levels. Despite the level seeming to be rather simple on the surface, over the years it has had a surprising number of incredible discoveries, and Egyptian speedruns showcase some of the coolest and most difficult techniques GoldenEye has to offer. And in April of this year, the player Chris G set a brand new world record for Egypt on the Asian difficulty, and the run is beautiful. I've always wanted to talk about Egypt speedruns, and this is the perfect opportunity. So in celebration of this new world record, we are going to take a look at the history of Egypt speedrunning and learn why this new world record is so amazing. I really hope you enjoy. Did you know that over 20 years ago when I left high school, I studied programming at university? But about 6 months in, I quit. It was just too boring. Even though I am a super nerd and I could probably be a decent programmer, I just couldn't get myself to just sit down and learn it. Well, if you're like me and you want to learn how to program, but you've always found it too boring, or maybe you just don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a degree, you should definitely check out today's sponsor, Boot.dev. Boot.dev makes learning to program as fun as it's ever going to be. It integrates earning XP, gaining levels, and completing quests to make it feel as much like a game as it can. Reason not to give it a go. The overall strategy for speedrunning Egypt is very basic. The first step is to get the Golden Gun as soon as possible. With the Golden Gun, we can kill the Baron with a single shot, which is obviously far quicker than using conventional weapons. If we tried to kill him with the standard machine gun, it would take at least several seconds for each kill, so that's just out of the question. And getting the Golden Gun is one of the objectives, so we can't skip it even if we wanted to. Thankfully, the Golden Gun room is near the beginning of the stage, and as soon as we enter the room, the door behind us is locked, and the Golden Gun is secured inside a glass case. In order to reach the Golden Gun safely, we need to follow a specific path. If we step on the wrong tile, multiple drone guns are exposed, and the glass case protecting the Golden Gun will close and not let us pick up the weapon. And since the dawn of time, speedrunners have always used the exact same path. Once we reach the case, we first collect the ammo for the Golden Gun, then open the door to exit, and while waiting for this door to open, we grab the gun. When we exit the room, we encounter the Baron for the first time. He stands waiting at the far end of this large room, and while he is a long distance away, this shot was never too difficult, as you can start to line him up while you wait for the door to open. A single shot from the Golden Gun is enough to kill him, and after he dies and fades away, he explodes back into existence at the second location. We can't kill the Baron as soon as he appears, as he is totally invincible for around 5 seconds, so we need to wait and then shoot him when he becomes vulnerable. After killing him for the second time, he will reappear at his final location, and the quickest way to reach him is through a secret door near where we killed him the first time. After killing him for the third time, the level ends. So we can break down the level into several different parts. 1. Collect the Golden Gun as soon as possible. 2. After collecting the Golden Gun, shooting the first Baron at the earliest possible moment. 3. When waiting to kill the second Baron, we want to stand as far away and as close to where we need to go to reach the third Baron as we can. And finally, get to the third Baron and shoot him to finish the level. For the first few years, speedruns for this level were extremely simple, and it wouldn't be until 2002 that we saw the first major strategy improvement, and this was in regards to where we stand when we shoot the second Baron. Since speedrunning began, speedrunners always stood to the left of the pillar that blocks our view to where the Baron is standing. This is a bit inconvenient, because once we shoot him, we need to go back in the opposite direction. So ideally, it would be much better if we stood on the right side and much further back. And indeed, in early May 2002, I was the first speedrunner to realize that you could just shoot him from this more optimal location. This was a pretty huge discovery, and saved at least a second compared to standing in the traditional position. And I used this new strategy to break the world record and achieve a time of 48 seconds. The obvious question becomes, why on earth weren't people doing this already? Honestly, this seems like a ridiculous thing for people to overlook for 5 years. But there is a good reason, and it has to do with what the Baron does when he spawns. When the Baron spawns in, he is facing the opposite direction towards the back wall. However, he is also programmed to always be facing towards Bond's position no matter where you are. So after he spawns, he will then turn to face you. And here is where it gets a bit more complicated. If there is no direct line of sight between you and the Baron when he spawns, for example if there is a solid wall between you and him, he will turn on the spot and remain in place. If this happens, there is no way to shoot him at all unless you get right into the room where he is and stand off to the side. Otherwise, the pillars will obstruct our line of sight. This is why everyone used to shoot him from here. However, if there is no wall between you and the Baron when he spawns, instead of turning on the spot, he will walk in a half circle. This causes him to move about a meter from his original position. And if he does this, it is now possible to shoot him from further back. So there are a combination of factors that led people to not realize this optimal strategy until 2002. The first is that from where you shoot the first Baron, we are already on the left side of where the second Baron spawns. And if we take a direct line to his position, we will always remain on the left side. Therefore, when he spawns in, even if he has a direct line of sight to us, he will turn to the left, making it impossible to hit him from the right. On top of that, if we take a direct line to the second Baron, there is a wall preventing line of sight to where he spawns. So normally the Baron would remain in place and was difficult to hit, requiring players to go right into the room.
I'm a baseball dad. Just because I didn't go pro doesn't mean my kid won't.
Hey, buddy, you gotta swivel those hips, right? And you gotta swing.
And if you don't have the right insurance, you can be paying for this yourself. So get Allstate.
I look different. I play different.
Boxing's the Wild West of sport.
This isn't a normal world.
Winning doesn't happen by accident. Winning becomes a lifestyle.
Volleyball here is a state treasure.
Representing Nebraska has meant everything to me.
We were the greatest defense ever to play the game.
We've given them an opportunity to dream.
At this time, players didn't understand Baron behavior, so they didn't realize that where you were standing at the moment he spawned in affected his ultimate position. Players may have tried to shoot him from the right side, but the fact is that he would have been impossible to hit, unless they ran to a very specific location before he spawned. And in order to do this, you need to be quick. Even today, players barely make it to the right side of the pillar before he spawns, and we rush there intentionally because we know we need to get there quickly. So there was years and years of experiences from hundreds of players where he was just impossible to hit from the right side, and it just became common knowledge that he can only be hit from the left. Then in May of 2002, I became the first player to realize that if you are standing on his right side where he spawns, he will move into a position where you can shoot him from much further back and to the right, which is much closer to where we need to go. After this, there were basically no strategy developments at all for over a decade, and yet the record was lowered from the 48 I achieved in 2002 to 45 seconds by David Clemens in May of 2008. And there were two major variables that resulted in this 3-second drop. The first comes down to pure technique, and David's run is incredible. For example, just from entering the Golden Gun room to shooting the first Baron, David gains around a full second over my original 48. And this is just because of better strafing through this relatively complex section. And while waiting to kill the second Baron, you can see that David first stands back and begins running forwards for a couple of seconds before making the shot, while in my run, I was standing in place. In GoldenEye, it takes around 3 seconds before you reach full speed, so David will gain a bit of time by starting to run earlier. And the second major difference between my run and David's is how quickly the Baron dies after being shot. And this is extremely important for the first and third Barons. When the Baron is killed, there are two steps that happen before he will respawn. The first is that he must complete his death animation, and then after that, he must fade out. The fade out is always the same speed, but the speed of his death animation will differ greatly. There are 16 possible death animations, but not all of them are necessarily possible depending on where you shoot the Baron. For example, if you shoot the Baron in his torso, there are 12 possible animations, and the timing of these animations vary from 2.1 seconds to 3.9 seconds. If you shoot the Baron in the arm, there are only 4 possible animations, ranging from 2.1 to 2.77 seconds, and each animation is equally likely to occur. The speed in which the first Baron dies and fades away is obviously important because the second Baron won't spawn until he does, so if you get an animation that takes 3.9 seconds, you'll lose a total of 1.8 seconds against the fastest animation. And the third Baron's death animation is important too, because the level only ends once he has completed his fade out. And the second Baron's death animation usually doesn't really make a difference, as it already takes so long to get from him to the final Baron. David's run was amazing not only because his technique was excellent, but he also had the fastest death animations on both the first and third Barons. On the Agent difficulty, you need a body shot to kill the third Baron with one bullet, which, as I said before, has 12 possible death animations. And on David's end screen, you can see the rest of his hits were limb shots, giving him a 1 in 4 chance of the best animation. So combined, in order to get the fastest deaths, the odds are at a minimum 1 in 48. And at that time, with the strategy used, getting a time of 45 seconds basically required the best death you can get. So you can imagine how difficult it was to get this time all the way back in 2008. Comparing this to my run, I lost 0.8 seconds on the first Baron and around 0.2 on the third Baron, for a total of 1 second lost. And the rest of the time loss was just from suboptimal technique. And for years, even after David's run in 2008, the level really didn't change. But then from 2013, a host of strategies would begin to be found.
As you can tell, I was not created by GoDaddy Aero. It uses AI to create great-looking, totally pro logos in minutes. Like him. Now that's a horse. Me? Ugh. I look like a two-legged dog. A dog horse. I'm a horse, man, who needs some dental work. A logo that actually looks like a horse. Imagine that. I can't even name right.
Capital One 360 checking lets me bank anywhere at any time. I like using the mobile app. It just makes my life so much easier. And I can just walk into a Capital One cafe and there's always someone there to help me. Everything is so smooth, I don't even have to think about it.
In February 2013, the greatest GoldenEye player ever, Rayan Isran, wanted to break David's record and achieve a time of 44 seconds. In order to accomplish this, he would begin to implement a new strategy when leaving the Golden Gun room. Instead of waiting for the door to open, he would switch weapons and warp straight through. Switching weapons to warp through doors is an ancient technique and is used for almost every door in the game. And though it doesn't look like it would work on this particular door, surprisingly it does. This warp had been known about since at least 2006, but was previously only used by players with the Turbo Mode cheat that causes Bond to run very quickly. And with this increased speed, warping through the door is relatively easy. Without Turbo Mode, the warp is rather inconsistent. And not only is it inconsistent, but performing the warp and then hitting the first Baron is incredibly difficult. As I said earlier, normally you can line up the Baron while you wait for the door to open. But in this case, you have no setup whatsoever. You have to warp and then turn in mid-air and hit the Baron immediately for this strategy to be faster. And I can tell you it's one of the hardest things to do in the entire game, as the Baron is a tiny target from that distance. Using this strategy, Rayan was saving around 0.7 seconds, which was barely enough to make 44 seconds theoretically possible. He would manage to tie 45 at least 20 times during this grind. But executing the warp, which is extremely extremely difficult, and getting the best Baron deaths in the same run was just too much. Rayan would also begin to implement a slightly improved method of killing the second Baron as well, which involves strafing against the pillar. If you use the strategy David used, there is enough space to run for about 2 seconds before you need to shoot, which means there is an entire second before you reach full speed after shooting the Baron. If you strafe against the pillar, you can reach full speed before shooting, which would save around 1/10 of a second. However, this strategy is also much more difficult, because the side of the pillar that you can actually run against is rather small, and it's very easy to slide off. In 2014, the strategic genius Henrik Norgren discovered that you can crouch underneath the door leaving the Golden Gun room in order to get through quicker. This allows you to shoot the first Baron about 1/3 of a second earlier. This new strategy led to a bunch of players getting 45, and at the same time, we also saw a huge increase of runners start to play the level with the 2.x control style. This is where you play using 2 controllers. It's much more difficult than using 1 controller, but it lets you start the level at full speed, saving around 1/3 of a second. A few days after discovering the crouch strategy, Henrik also discovered that you could switch weapons to warp over a trigger in the Golden Gun room to keep a straight path instead of needing to go around. By looking at this map of the room that Henrik made, you can see all of the triggers that would cause the room to fail. The idea is to switch weapons at the perfect time so that the drop in frame rate would allow you to warp over the trigger and appear on the other side. This was great in theory, and would save around 4/10 of a second. However, in practice, it turned out to be far too precise, and Henrik couldn't figure out a way to execute it consistently. And ultimately, this wasn't incorporated into runs. Still, the crouch strategy and using the 2.x control style allowed many players to tie 45, but 44 was still elusive. Even if you used 2.x and performed the warp, that only saved a total of 1 second over David's 45. So not only would you need to use a far more difficult control scheme to perform one of the hardest techniques in the entire game, but even if you managed to pull it off, you probably still needed the best Baron deaths, which is still around a 1 in 50 chance. And this is why, despite all of these strategies existing, 44 still didn't happen. And it likely wouldn't have happened for a long time unless further optimizations were made. Luckily, at the beginning of 2018, that's exactly what happened.
Wait, is this you when trying to build a website? Because I got you.
Oh? Check out Bluehost. They have an AI site creator that makes it a breeze. Build your own professional looking site in minutes. All you have to do is type in some details about your business and the AI site creator will generate 3 awesome designs for you to start with. Then you can customize it as much as you want. Add in your pictures and branded colors and boom, fully fledged site is up in minutes. You didn't even have to code anything. This is perfect if you're trying to get your site up in time for the holidays because they have great e-commerce tools too. No worries, no stress. Get your website up in minutes with Bluehost.
In January 2018, I began to play the level to see if 44 was possible. I had seen Rayan Isran perform the warp before, and I wanted to see just how difficult it was. And while the warp and shot at the first Baron was indeed very difficult, it wouldn't be long before I realized there was a huge flaw in the way Rayan had been executing the strategy. It was clear from Rayan's previous videos that he was pressing B to open the door before he was pressing A to switch weapons. This is understandable, because that is how almost every single door warp is done in the entire game. If you switch weapons earlier, the gap is usually too small to warp through. And GoldenEye speedrunners have developed a pretty good sense of how early you can press A to switch weapons to warp through doors at the earliest moment. However, this particular door in Egypt behaves differently, and I suspected that pressing A after opening the door might not be optimal, because the weapon switch takes a bit of time to occur. So first, I tried pressing A and B at the exact same time.
Oh, dude! Okay, Ace, can you clip that? That was like a fucking A and B at the same time warp.
This ended up working and was slightly faster. And then I realized you could even press A to start switching weapons well before you even reached the door. This meant that almost immediately after pressing B to open the door, you could warp through. The only trade-off is that trying to warp the door this early makes it far more inconsistent. However, it was now significantly faster than the way the warp was previously done. While Rayan was saving around 0.7 seconds, this new warp with an earlier weapon switch was saving around a second. With this faster warp combined with the 2.x control style, I was now able to theoretically save almost 1.5 seconds over David's first 45-second run. And on the 1st of February 2018, I managed to put a run together and achieve the first 44. I had such an advantage with the new warp and the 2.x control style that I didn't even need the fastest Baron deaths, or the pillar strafe to get 44 comfortably. Over the next couple of years, several people managed to tie 44. In 2019, people started to realize that going to the right of this pillar at the beginning of the stage is about 1 frame faster. This is really funny. For 20 years, everyone had been going the long way around this pillar instead of cutting through the inside. Then in 2021, another strategic mastermind named Whitehead managed to find a consistent setup for performing the tile skip in the Golden Gun room that Henrik Norgren had found all the way back in 2014. Whitehead realized that the triggers of the floor were not always active, and were instead placed into 4 different groups, with each group being active for only 1 frame out of every 4. And this cycling pattern begins as soon as you enter the room. So by using this knowledge, he developed a movement pattern that enabled you to get through half of a trigger while it was still inactive, and then you only needed to skip over the second half by switching weapons. This meant that the drop in frame rate by switching weapons provided plenty of time to reach the other side before the trigger became active. While it's not 100% consistent, the setup allowed runners to hit the skip most of the time. This discovery was huge, and enabled players to incorporate this strategy into runs, saving up to 0.4 seconds. It was at this point in time the feasibility of getting a time of 43 became very high. If we put everything together, the tile warp, a fast door warp to the first Baron, a pillar strafe, and very fast Baron deaths, 43 was more than achievable. And I also realized there was even more time to save over my initial run of 44 seconds. While I did warp the door very quickly, I took my time actually shooting the Baron. I had a tendency to aim for a bit longer than I needed to, and I didn't fire my gun as quickly as I theoretically could have. However, shooting quickly makes hitting the Baron exponentially more difficult. When I played for 43 and tried shooting as early as possible, my accuracy fell dramatically, and sometimes I would go for an hour or more without getting a single successful hit. I did manage to duplicate 44 a few times, but they all involved slow Baron deaths, and I just couldn't put a good run together. Unfortunately for me, it just wasn't meant to be. But after 4 months of grinding and duplicating 44 a total of 26 times, the runner Chris G would be the man to do it. And on the 28th of April 2025, he achieved this run. This run is truly beautiful. I've been envisioning 43 since 2021, and it's amazing to finally see it happen. From here, I'm not really sure if a run of 42 is even theoretically attainable, unless something else is discovered. It seems like the only way any significant time could be saved would be by figuring out a way to kill the second Baron earlier somehow, though this might just be physically impossible. So it's likely that 43 will remain the record now for a very long time. A huge congratulations to Chris G for this amazing new world record. Thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first.
Is that your car?
Yeah.
Like you know to check your sunroof is closed first, before going through the car wash. So check Allstate first and save when you click or call.
Hello, you absolute legends. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge fan of Todd Rogers, one of the biggest con artists in video game history. I've even made several videos about him, covering his impossible dragster record and also his childish lawsuits that he's filed against Twin Galaxies and Guinness World Records after he was banned for lying about many of his scores. Naturally, because I'm such a fan of Todd Rogers, I always try to catch any new videos from other creators that want to cover his story. In March of 2022, the YouTuber Storster released a video about Todd called The Biggest Liar in Speedrunning History, and it's a pretty good video. I liked the video because it covered some fake scores and some history that I've never covered myself, and I could tell that Storster really tried to make the video original and add something new. However, there was a section near the end that was a bit too familiar. It was talking about one of Todd's failed lawsuits, and it was basically a condensed version of one of my videos. Not only are all of the screenshots taken directly from my video, but most of the script is just my script slightly rewritten. Todd filed his complaint pro se, which means he was representing himself and didn't have a lawyer. The complaint was terribly written.
He entered this lawsuit completely by himself without a lawyer, and the complaint was really poorly written.
So the lawsuit just sat there for months with nothing happening, until September of 2020, where Todd actually did find a lawyer.
The lawsuit sat around until September, until Todd found a lawyer to represent him.
Several days after this, Todd himself wrote a letter to the judge claiming that the lawyer filed the dismissal without his consent. He accused his lawyer of committing numerous errors, including the infamous misspelling of his name, which we all fondly remember being Todd Todges.
And then Todd himself sent a letter to the judge claiming the lawyer filed the dismissal without his consent, as well as many other errors. The funniest one being the spelling of his name as Todd Todgers.
My favorite screenshot from Storster's video is this one, which just happens to be identical to the one that I used, but hers has this inexplicable dark gradient at the bottom. This isn't present on the actual legal document, but this exact same effect would happen if one were so lazy that they would just pause my video and use the snipping tool to take a picture of the screen. This is because when you pause a YouTube video, it darkens the bottom of the screen, so this darkening would of course creep into the screenshot. Despite this entire section being ripped straight from my video, I'm not mentioned anywhere, and I can't help but get the impression this is intentional, because in another part of the video, Storster says this.
With the Amex Gold Card, every meal is a reward. Whether you decide to stay in or go all.
Many of his scores are outlandishly high in comparison to second place, and due to this, people have done math to calculate how long it would have taken for Todd to get some of these supposed scores.
Apparently, people have done calculations, but in reality, people is me. Storster is about to reference a spreadsheet that I created and posted to the speedrunning Reddit. In the spreadsheet, I went through all of Todd's scores on Twin Galaxies and highlighted the most ridiculous ones. And for some of them, I did a quick calculation of how long it would have taken Todd to achieve those records based on how long second place took.
His Donkey Kong Jr. score would have taken over 25 hours. His Enduro score over 42 hours, his Journey escape time 106 hours, and the most ridiculous one being his Fathom High score, being calculated to take 325 hours.
Multiple times throughout the video, Storster had taken my work and seemingly deliberately hidden the fact that it was from me. In the description of the video, there is a link to the script, and below the script, there are some links with no identifiers. Clicking one of these nondescript YouTube links reveals my video, and my Google spreadsheet is listed a bit further down. Obviously, Storster didn't want to give me credit in the video, which is a shame. But I didn't really care too much because, as I said before, at least she did try to make the video somewhat original and add her own elements. And the plagiarized portion was only a small part of the overall video. But here is what's really ironic. In January of 2023, Storster's entire video was stolen by a Russian channel called Naritsa. Naritsa's video is in Russian, but with the help of auto-translate, I could gather the structure of the video and most of the talking points, along with all of the screenshots came directly from Storster's video. Something unbelievable happens, however, when it gets to the section covering Todd's lawsuit. Here, Naritsa actually mentions my channel. Trust me, you don't yet understand how insane this is. Naritsa also took a bunch of information from some of my other videos as well, but I didn't think anything of it. As far as I was concerned, he used my work and gave me a shout out, and while he did also steal most of his work from Storster, Storster stole from me, so it all worked out in the end. There wasn't anything to get too upset about, and I moved on with my life. But little did I know that I had just been exposed to the biggest thief in speedrunning history. This guy had been stealing from me and every other speedrunning creator for years, and I had no idea. And it would be almost 2 years later that I would finally see what was going on. You know, I woke up recently and realized something. It's that time in our lives again where we all get together and play old school RuneScape. I've started playing again and I need some company. Seriously, I have no friends. But even if you don't want to come and hang out with me, you should still start playing again anyway because League's 5 Raging Echoes has just begun. Leagues runs for 8 weeks, and it's the most fun way to play old school RuneScape. It is RuneScape on steroids. XP and loot are boosted, you get to complete tasks, earn points, choose awesome power-ups, and you basically get to speedrun through the game in a way you've never experienced before. In Leagues, bosses have been enhanced with brand new rewards for defeating them, and there is a new combat mastery system that allows for more power and more opportunity for min-maxing. Points earned in Leagues is tracked, so you can compete with other players, and you'll receive a permanent trophy depending on which tier you can achieve. This is the most exciting time to play old school RuneScape. They even just broke their all-time high player count. Just click the link in the description to download old school RuneScape and to learn more about Leagues 5. Please add me as a friend and I will see you in the game. Thanks to Jagex for sponsoring. A couple of weeks ago, I released a video called The Dumbest Fake Speedrun Ever. It was a very successful video, and it was heaps of fun to make. I became an active member of the Jump King Speedrunning Discord server, and I had conversations with real Jump King speedrunners learning about certain mechanics. And I even combed through the fake speedrun a lot, trying to find more discrepancies myself. I was the first person to make a video about this particular fake speedrun, so in order for me to get all of the details, I had to do actual research. I had to talk to people, I had to learn things, I had to actually play the game. I even demonstrated how to do splices, and I personally recreated some of the fake elements myself. My point is that I put in a fair amount of my own work to make that video. And then a week later, one of the Jump King speedrunning moderators sent me a video by our friend Naritsa, which apparently was just a complete ripoff of my own. And boy, is it ever. Naritsa's video is a point-by-point, almost word-for-word replication of my entire video. It tells the exact same story, in the exact same order, hitting the exact same points. He even steals my footage where I show myself recreating certain elements in my video editor. Literally the only thing he added was some speculation about the photoshopped end screen, saying that perhaps the original end time was 17 minutes. But even that was just stolen from a comment from under my video. Naritsa will show Discord screenshots, which makes it look like he is in a server doing research. In fact, watching his videos, there is absolutely no indication whatsoever that any of it is based on or taken from anyone else's work. But Naritsa doesn't do his own research. If you see a screenshot in a Naritsa video, it is always just taken from whichever video he is stealing from. And if you see any interesting or creative footage, it is always just stolen from someone else without credit as well. Naritsa is a huge channel with almost 700,000 subscribers. All of his videos get hundreds of thousands or even millions of views, and all of his videos are sponsored. But all this man does is take English videos and recreates them in Russian, with no added creativity or transformative value whatsoever. One thing that you'll soon learn is that Naritsa does everything possible to avoid showing any player names in any of his videos. Usually when I show game footage, I put the name of the player in the corner to give them credit. Naritsa will go and find the original footage just so that he can use it without the credit showing, even though evidently he is quite happy just to steal footage directly from the original video anyway when the player names aren't present. So he puts in more effort just to avoid showing the player names. I am not mentioned anywhere in this video a single time. Naritsa acts as if this entire video is his own work. It's incredible. In the description, however, there is an inconspicuous link to my video. During this video, I'm going to mention if he puts any video links in the description, but regardless of whether or not he does, it goes without saying that putting a link to a video in the description does not give you permission to steal its entire content word for word, including all of the footage. But as you will soon see, you are lucky if you even get a link in the description, because most of the time, you get absolutely nothing. After seeing how bad Naritsa plagiarized my video, I finally went and checked the rest of his channel, and only then did I realize the full extent of his theft. One of my most popular videos is the Guitar Hero video I made about Shmooey. I put a lot of effort into this video. I even spent a bit of time learning the game and getting my first full combo. And of course, Naritsa has stolen the entire thing. Again, the video is a point-by-point, word-for-word recreation. Every clip is played in the exact same order, and almost every single clip and screenshot in this video is taken straight from my video. He can't even be bothered going to publicly accessible websites just to take his own screenshots. Naritsa evidently had a bit of a problem here, because he didn't want to do any research, but all of the clips that I used are pretty hard to find. I got sent clips directly from real players who were helping me with the video, and many of them were unlisted. We even set up a dedicated Discord server so that I could talk easily with all of the players involved. Naritsa couldn't find the original clips, but he cannot, under any circumstances, give any players credit, and all of my clips have the player names in the corner. So he comes up with a brilliant idea. He takes the clip from my video and then blurs or photoshops out the name. I really don't understand the logic here. Naritsa is quite happy to steal unique footage that I created specifically for my video, so it's obvious that he's stealing from my video anyway. He's not even trying to hide the fact that he's stealing. So then why can't he just take the other clips and leave the credit where it is? Why does he have to put so much effort into hiding the names of the players? It makes no sense. It would honestly be much easier just to slap his own credit over the top. That would both hide the fact that it was from me, and it would at least still give the player some credit. Sometimes he accidentally leaves my credit in though, because he doesn't realize I put it there. In this clip, I put Frank over the top of the player name, because Frank is the one playing. But in the original clip, the player name was wrong because Frank was playing on a friend's account. So when Naritsa steals the clip from my video, he unintentionally leaves in the correct credit. With the amount of footage that was just taken from my video, I am shocked that Naritsa didn't accidentally use a clip of me. I wouldn't have even been surprised. I am not mentioned anywhere in this video, and I didn't even get a mention in the description. I got literally nothing. He also stole my blindfolded videos about Queen Pones a lot. At one point in the video, I showed a clip from the streamer Twas By Design. Naritsa uses the same clip, but he zooms in the camera to crop out the channel credit that I gave. You can even still see the edge of the rectangle in the corner. Naritsa's Osu video is just stolen from videos by Abisoft and myself. It's always the craziest coincidence. Naritsa takes all of his screenshots on the exact same days that I do. Sometimes I offer people a small fee for helping me with a video. In this case, I paid for a top Osu player to check my script and provide me some unique footage of them using the Wooting keyboard software. Naritsa just takes that footage that I paid for straight from my video. The theme of avoiding giving people credit continues. I mean, Naritsa goes out of his way to find the exact same clips just so that he can put them in the video without credit. These clips are literally identical. Naritsa tries his hardest artist to use the least amount of brain power possible. I mean, there are thousands of top-level Osu clips he could have used, but he will just use the exact same ones that I used. Even if it's just random B-roll footage, he refuses to use any creativity whatsoever. And in his Osu video, he actually does unintentionally use footage of me playing. And that's very upsetting. I had to play for almost 20 minutes to get a run that good. Not only does he not mention me in the video, but again, I'm not even mentioned in the description. What a joke. Naruto loves to find creative ways to steal the work of other creators. He made a Doom video that was supposed to be an explanation of a speedrun through all 4 episodes of the Ultimate Doom. He mainly showed footage from Zero Master, whom, by the way, he has never contacted. When Naruto isn't stealing from videos, he makes bland, obvious observations about what is happening on screen. It's as shallow and pointless as you could possibly get. But then he will find any excuse to break away from the speedrun and steal from the creator, Decino. Decino is an amazing Doom content creator. I've even referenced him multiple times in my videos. And he's what I call a high-effort creator. He puts a lot of effort into his videos, and it shows. Naruto finds any excuse to steal from Decino's work. For example, during the speedrun, he will see a piece of armor and decides he wants to steal 20 seconds of footage and script from Decino's video about armor. Next, he takes the footage and script from my Doom video about 8 seconds on Hanger, and then shortly after that, he steals more than a minute of Decino's script and footage from his video about RNG. When we get to Decino's script, it's a perfect time to steal a couple more minutes from Decino's video on the All Ghost effect. He then goes ahead and steals the footage and script from my video on the All Ghost effect. I know the footage came from me because it's footage that Zero Master specifically made for my video. Episode 2 is hilarious because it shows just how clueless Naruto is when he isn't.
Everybody, Walton Goggins here. Starting a business is never easy, but with GoDaddy...
My friends, today we are going to explore some ancient, obscure tricks and glitches in GoldenEye 007. I woke up the other day and my longtime pal Perfect Ace was telling me that he was browsing the old Death Star GoldenEye page, particularly the tricks and glitches part of the old website. Now, this is an amazing old website, and Death Star has been an OG gaming hacker and memory editor, really finding some remarkable things over the years. Especially remarkable when you think that he found a lot of this stuff, 25 years ago or more. So here's an archived version of his website from the year 2002, one of the earliest archives we have of the site. And I'm going to go down the list and play some funny GoldenEye tricks and glitches as listed on the website all those years ago. Just imagine you're hanging out with Ace and I, perhaps at a comfy sleepover with some Pizza Hut and some Mountain Dew back in the day, and let's get into it.
Here we go!
The first trick we're going to look at today is called Unarmed Guard. Now this one is crazy. Death Star writes, turn on infinite ammo, install the covert modem, but keep planting more and more modems until you can't plant any more. Then shoot the lock off the fence and head back to the guardhouse and hit the alarm. Take off, running down the dam, and stop at the first tower. Wait a bit after the alarm stops, and then return to the guardhouse. There will be 2 extra guards there. One is unarmed with no weapon. Now this sounds truly remarkable. Infinite ammo, invincible. Let's go to damn Double Agent and take a look. I mean, to find something like this years ago is really quite crazy. And if memory serves right, I do believe that packing the sorts of covert modems or mines or any kind of throwable object on top of each other does have strange effects, so let's go and find out. Now I'm going to leave a lot of the guards alive. I have invincibility on. I think if I shoot this guy, he will no longer seek the alarm, so we don't want that alarm going off yet as per the instructions. Let's pause here for the covert modem, And let's just start throwing the modem as much as we can, stacking them in a strange, unusual, labyrinthian, serpentine sort of feel. I can feel the game getting laggy as I throw the modems, and it looks like it's done. It looks like I can no longer throw any more modem. So there is the sort of stack of modems. Guards are looking to fight me. No big deal. So now we have to go here, and it says shoot off the lock first. Now go back and sound the alarm, and then run away. Okay. Let's do that. All the guards are coming out. Let's run down the dam for a bit. Let's just go all the way to the end for good measure and then come on back. Side note, I love this. The stairs are not exactly in the middle of the off-ramp. That took me literally almost 30 years to realize.
It's not too late to outgrow the family hairline. Through Hims, you can break the cycle and get the thicker, fuller hair of your dreams. Genetics started it, but our range of personalized treatments can help you get ahead of it. Stop hair loss and regrow your hair in just 3 to 6 months with clinically proven ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil. See why 79% of customers say they wish they started treatment through Hims earlier. Take control of your own hair destiny. Start today at hims.com.
Truly remarkable, in fact. Another side note, this is one of my favorite liminal spaces in the strange game of GoldenEye 007. What an unusual area blocked off. And no, a lot of people think this connects to an area on runway. Totally not. It's way too high. You jump down the gate, enter the facility, and the runway's at the bottom down there. So there's no possible way that door connects to the one on runway by the tank. Unless, of course, it goes through the mountain and curves all the way around. You know, maybe someone could assemble such remarkable geometry someday. That would be pretty cool. You know, like Mario 64 has a, what do you call it? Pauseless or restless 120 star, where you just keep going. There's no like cutscene after each star. Imagine that in GoldenEye. It'd be pretty cool if someone ever got to that one day. Let's find out, baby. Is there an unarmed guard? Wow. Unbelievably, here is the unarmed guard, and he's not even noticing me. This is odd. Oh, here he goes, starts running around. Like, how did Death Star figure this out in the early 2000s or late 90s? It's actually unbelievable. Yet, through this series of unusual glitches, this guard has no weapon. And it doesn't look that strange because we're kind of used to seeing NPCs in this game without weapons, you know, scientists and civilians, and even some of the main characters at times. But hostages, I mean, to see a guard run around like this is certainly odd and unsettling. I mean, just look at, all he knows how to do is sidestep and kind of move around while others are firing at me. It's truly amazing that this was found years ago. What a strange guy. And he has some body armor. I think I'll just leave him at that. You know, I kind of respect how this guard exists. There must be some memory thing going on, you know, with so many modems causing some issue with the game's memory in such a way that, like, when new guards spawn in, it just can't process the game enough to give him a weapon. Which is so, so odd. And I would love if anyone could ever figure out exactly why this happens. But there you go. The Death Star unarmed guard from decades ago is true. Okay, the next one I want to try is called Crazy Uramov on Facility. After you talk to Trevelyan, Uramov holds him at gunpoint. Wait for him to start the countdown, then shoot Trevelyan. When his countdown ends, Uramov will point down, turn, and shoot the wall. Now, I'm loath to shoot Trevelyan. Feels bad, man, but, through my career of speedrunning the game, Trevelyan has certainly passed away numerous times when detonating the tanks a little bit too early. So for the sake of this historical dig and the science of the